Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, a perfect conclusion to our Sens in Sweden coverage. It's Dr. Bob, who was at both games overseas.
And with Thomas Chabot practicing and looking good, hopefully he's set to return December 1st. But how should the D pairs look when he's back?
We'll discuss all that, plus a funky NHL schedule continues on a busy night. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 922 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Pillar up in the Blue Mountains. You can follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Today is Wednesday, November 22nd, and Pilsy, how much are you looking forward to the Boston Bruins game tonight against the Florida Panthers going to overtime?
Yeah, it's of course going to go to overtime. All these Atlantic Division matchups, they don't give just 2 points. It's a 3-point affair every time, making it hard for the Ottawa Senators to catch up some ground here. But you can, if you're really sure about that, Ross, you can go to FanDuel and hopefully win a couple shekels on it at least. But
I've been so ice cold that I'm hoping to go there just to jinx it, because every single night, including the last time that the Boston Bruins played, they had the win in the bag. Nope. Tampa scores with 5 seconds left and then ultimately wins it in OT.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone knows about mushing other teams with their bets to help the Senators, it's me. I've done that in some Pilsies parlay. But enough of that. We go from having 0 games yesterday, Ross, to now having 14 games. 28 of the 32 teams are playing tonight. So if you, had a little bit of, something was missing last night from your afternoon typical routine or evening routine, depending on where you are, well, you can get right back into the swing of things with 14 different NHL games on tonight, including one we just talked about, Florida and the Bruins.
Well, did Arizona say it was okay?
Yeah, true. Yeah, the league needs to check with Arizona to see if Mullet Arena is available or if they've got a college team function going on.
Amazing. So the big games tonight, there's a lot of them. I'm going to be dialed in to the West Division leading teams are going head-to-head, Pilsy. The Golden Knights in Dallas to take on the Stars at 9:30.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Canucks Avalanche, that's going to be a hot one too.
Yeah, that one's circled for you. So those are the 2 late games. So we better get a nap in as we're recording this afternoon. We're also recording tomorrow afternoon. We've got a very special guest. Abbas, the owner of Shawarma Palace, is going to be our Sens Central citizen. We've also got a phenomenal guest. Pilsy, what do you say we just get right to him? We've got Dr. Bob, now recurring guest Dr. Bob, on the show. You already follow him on social media. You met him in Chicago. I met him in Winnipeg. He's going all around North America following the Sens, and he's doing it for a great cause. Let's let him explain that and recap his trip to Sweden. All right, we're now pleased to welcome a very good friend back to the show. We've gotten to meet him at a number of Senators games in multiple cities. He's Dr. Bob. Bob, welcome back to the show. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Great to see you, Ross and Brandon. I'm sitting in my RAV4 back from Sweden. I'm eager to get on the road again. Sweden was fantastic. As you know, this is part of the Dr. Bob Sens Tour, and it's linked to a Canadian Cancer Society fundraiser. You and lots of other people put it together last year. I was able to get to 18,000 728, and I don't think it takes much for a Senators fan to know why those were magic numbers, and they were. Giroux was fantastic last year too. This year, I'm hoping to get to 28, 170, 28.
I've got 28,187 here on your website.
It. Yeah, why did I muff that up? I'm sorry. Yeah,
I got you.
I think Stützle's going to get over 100 points maybe this year, and we'll go from there.
I love it. So Bob, we're a lot of talk this week, a long layoff between games. Did you feel like you were in game condition to make a long drive yesterday, or did the jet lag take a couple days? Are you glad Ottawa has a couple extra days here before the next game?
I think it makes total sense to have a few days off. I'm a little older than most of the players, and yeah, I think I'm ready to drive today, but not yesterday. So.
Yeah. Dr. Bob is making sure to stay in shape, just like, in these breaks, the players, they practice. Dr. Bob's like, all right, I can't get that cushion out of my car seat. I got to make sure I've got the proper posture for the upcoming drive. Yeah. So we respect the grind, Bob. It's great having you in your natural environment, which is your RAV4.
Right. I actually worked yesterday at the seniors residence that I take care of.
Oh,
and once we're done this chat, I'm going to pick up the grandson that often comes over to visit. So, yeah.
That's amazing. So tell us about this Sweden trip. You got over there on a cruise, and what were the highlights of the trip in and including like the hockey, but also the time you spent around the city?
Well, in Finland, we were there for a few days and we got to tour a bit. And I think the highlight there was doing the sauna. Going into they have it constructed so that the sauna is on a bit of a raft or a float dock.
Cool. Yep.
And they cut a hole in the center of it so you can go into the Baltic Sea right in the center. So it was like +6 degrees. That seemed pretty warm actually, but once you get into it, the air temperature was +7 Celsius. The water temperature was +6. You can't stay in there very long. And they told us not to go swimming around in it, but we did a little bit. So
yeah, it's cool to get the dip. That's for sure. So you went from Finland then to Stockholm?
The cruise across to Stockholm from Helsinki was lots of fun. Met lots of other fanatic Sens fans. And then in Stockholm, we had that open practice, which was absolutely phenomenal. Getting to meet in person the players, and Brady Tkachuk and Chabot. And DJ Smith came out and addressed the crowd. And we got to see Steve Staios. There I am with Brady. And Steve Staios got to shake hands. There were about 80 of us who went on the tour, 80 to 100, and each of those got a chance to be at this meeting, this open practice.
So what was the environment like in the arena? How different was it than a normal NHL arena?
I'd say not much different. It didn't feel like a home game, especially with the Minnesota crowd. But the first game against Detroit was absolutely phenomenal. The Detroit fans were keen and excited, and obviously we were very excited. And there was a Simon, who was a Stützle fan, had come all the way from Germany and wound up just being 3 seats from where I and my buddies were. And so he had as loud of "Go Sens, go!" voice as I did. So it was phenomenal. We actually saw him again in the Minnesota game, but he was halfway across the arena, and the two of us were doing this big "Go Sens, go!" And he said, "Hey, I know who that is."
Yeah, you're pretty recognizable even all the way from the other side of the rink, Bob. Now, that's cool, too, because in Sweden and Europe, a lot of the hockey games, Ross, we got a taste of this when we watched was that the World Cup of Hockey, or what they call that, what we went to in Toronto?
World Cup of Hockey.
Yeah, World Cup of Hockey, where during the Sweden and Finland games, they're doing back and forth chants at each other from the rink, and it's like there's a whole song and dance to it. It's not just like a random thing. So I hope you got to experience some of that in Stockholm at Avicii Arena.
That really wasn't there. I think it was more NHL style. That wasn't, the singing
of the
we have in Finland.
Of the people that you saw at the arena, how many were visiting like you were, and how many were local hockey fans that were taking it in?
I'd say it was about 50% visitors.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
And you meet some cool Sens fans while you're there as well?
You bet. Lots of people who were on the tour. I won't mention names because there's so many, but it was an absolutely fantastic experience. There are many Sens fans who are even more fanatical than I am. So
that's hard to believe. Yeah. So you obviously sound like you enjoyed the global series. This is something that the NHL is probably going to keep moving along. Now, I recommended it with Ian Mendez. Ian wrote an article about it. There's been rumors now that the next time they go over to Europe, they're going to go to Germany. I mean, that's got to be pretty cool, and that's got to be something I'm sure you're going to be doing as well, Dr. Bob.
I think I will. There was a couple of guys who I think they're a little more on the in. They were able to introduce me to some of the Sens staff, and they were saying, it's going to happen in 2 years, going to Germany. So we'll see how that goes.
Hope you're enjoying our chat with Dr. Bob. We'll get right back to it, but first, a word from our friends at FanDuel.
FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's also North America's #1 sportsbook, and for a good reason. I love their app. It's easy to use. You can get so many different betting options, from spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. You guys already know FanDuel is the home of Pilsy's parlay of the day, and right now, new customers in the U.S. can get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel down in America, there's no better time to get in on the action. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. Bet on basketball, college football, NFL, and of course the NHL. Do it all at the trusted online sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network, FanDuel.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Sleeper. Now close your eyes and imagine the Ottawa Senators win the Stanley Cup. Tim Stützle bats the overtime winner right into the net. Now, these are the types of dreams that all hockey fans have. And if you are dreaming about winning up to 100 times your money, then play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. Possibilities are endless. And as the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially hockey. With Sleeper, you can win up to 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. With studs like Brady Tkachuk, Claude Giroux, Drake Batherson, and Josh Norris, all you do is need to pick more or less on stats for these stars. So goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more. You heard me, Sens fans. 100 times payout on Sleeper. So start paying attention and get your picks right so you can win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's a Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Available only in the United States for now. All right, now back to our chat with Dr. Bob. Well, from the NHL Global Series to the Dr. Bob Global Series, the Senators have a busy December. How much are you going to keep up with them? I know that they've got that long road trip out west. How many games do you expect to be at?
Well, you guys pointed it out very well that we're going from hardly any games, recovery phases and stuff like that, to 12 games in 23 days, 22 days, December 1st to December 23rd. So I'll make at least 6 of those games. I'll take the road trip from Leamington near Detroit, Ontario, to St. Louis, Dallas, Phoenix, Vegas. Actually, Vegas, Phoenix. I'll be in Vegas on the 21st, I think it is, of no, it's the 17th. 17th of December. And I actually today, this is the day before American Thanksgiving. Last year, I was in Vegas for the game Sens played the night before Thanksgiving last year, which brings us to, we really are doing a lot better as Senator team than we were last year. About this time at 15 games, I think we were 4-11. Now we're 8-7. So that pledge that we needed to get a better start in November, I think we've basically done that, which is good stuff. So a week ago Saturday in that Tampa game, post game, and through the game, DJ's got to go, and Brady's statements. I called the Team 1200 post game, and I said, it's up to whether the players really do want to play for DJ. And obviously they do. They played 2 good games that they managed to get the wins on. And one of the guys, who I won't use his name either, on the tour, he's a big administrator in the government and has 1,400 employees. He says, DJ has the ability to talk to 18 to 25-year-olds. And he says that they're Generation A, and it's a magical thing to be able to talk to those people and motivate them well. They want mentors, and the team got Giroux as a mentor for the young Brady Tkachuk and other players. So he felt it was worthwhile continuing with DJ even before we had won those 2 games. And but you have to have other good backups. One of the things that I would propose is having Jacques Martin come in as a consultant for defense. Prior to the season, I thought we should change over all of the assistant coaches and keep DJ, because he's sort of like that horse whisperer to the Generation A that are ready to play and play well. You can't really change much right now, but maybe you could bring in Jacques Martin as a consultant for the defensive structure that still needs a ton of work.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some speculation that the X's and O's on this team and the defensive structure could use some fine tuning. So I kind of agree with what you're getting at there, Dr. Bob. Now, everyone talks about the Sweden trip, but the problem isn't in Sweden. They're 5-0-1 in Sweden, the Sens are. The problem's coming home. How are you feeling with this team having that much of a break and having to get back into the swing of things? And then, like we've already mentioned, the fast pace of upcoming games right after that. Are you a little nervous about this, or how are we feeling?
I'm a little nervous about it. I won't be at the New York Islander game on Friday, but I'll be on the 27th in Ottawa. I think they're going to do better than we did on the last time coming out. Last time there were lots of different changes, and I think they realize, as a bunch of young players as well, that we really have to continue to play well, or who knows, there may be DJ chance again, which we don't want to see. Chabot is coming back on December 1st. That'll make a big help. I think strategically, in terms of defensive players, seeing JBD play with Chychrun has been good. I noted that you guys put out a thing on your Twitter. I'm not much into Twitter, but I've just started a few weeks ago that graded the defensive couplings, and that Sanderson and Zub were really good, but Chabot and Chychrun weren't too bad. They were better than JBD and Chychrun were better than Chabot and Hamonic, for example.
I think JBD and Chychrun's one of those where I feel like everyone has looked at them and been like, oh, that pairing has been nice. But as Ross is pulling up here, if you're watching on YouTube, the Chychrun JBD, their expected goals, minimum 30 minutes together, 5-on-5, is at a 41.8% here. So that's a little lower than you'd like for them. So,
but if you look at the combinations that you have, it's Sanderson with somebody and then Chychrun with Hamonic. I guess he does pretty well. But if you look at Hamonic and Sanderson isn't very good. The biggest thing is I don't want to see Chabot have to play right D.
I know.
I'm with you there. Yeah.
Any sense at all. And so if you put Chabot with Hamonic, for example, or possibly even play Granny there, and then you have Chychrun with JBD and Sanderson with Zub, and with 12 games in 23 days or 22 days even, you can, each pairing should probably play about the same amount of time. And I think that actually will help a lot. Rather, they won't be as exhausted, and you'll have a more effective defense system. If you look back, way back, 1996, the Panthers actually beat the Philadelphia Flyers and went into the Stanley Cup and played against Colorado, but lost. I think part of that was there was an injury to Jovanovski, but they were playing at that stage. They were playing 4 lines while Philadelphia was really playing only 2 lines. And if you have that energy, even if your talent is even somewhat close to the talent of the other team, but you have more energy, you have Lindros coming off being at 120 on his shift, and you have Eric Scruglin come on and he's on his first 10, 15 seconds, he's going to outplay him. And so I think if you had 3 good defensive pairings, you might do a lot better, especially with so many games in some little time.
Well, Bob, we know you've got a busy month ahead yourself. You good to check in with us throughout? We want to keep taps on your
love to. I'd love to. And this is November is the Fight Cancer Month, and it's going to be NHL Fights Cancer in Ottawa on Monday. Great to do what we can to fight cancer in the Canadian Cancer Society. There is 20,000 people in each year who die of cancer in Canada. And that's a big crowd. Yeah. Sens crowd at the CTC Center. My dad had prostate cancer. It didn't take him. My sister had melanoma. Thankfully, it was discovered early as well. So many ways that we need to try and fight it. Have one less beer at the game and make a donation.
I love it. And everyone can find a link to donate. Dr. Sens Dr. Bob, you go to so many Sens games, you are Dr. Sens. But Dr. Bob Sens Tour on his Instagram, and you can click the link to donate. We'll be in touch, Bob. Really appreciate you coming on. And this is such an intimate setting. I literally feel like I'm riding shotgun with you, and we're just having a conversation. So thanks so much. We'll do this again soon, all right?
Take care. Thanks a lot. Go Sens, go.
Hope you enjoyed our conversation with Dr. Bob. Make sure you're following him on social media, and really a great cause that he's doing this for. I know we have fun with the fact that he's driving so many kilometers, but it really is a great cause. So yeah, make sure you're following him on Instagrams where he's most active, Dr. Bob Sens Tour.
Yep, an absolute Sens legend, Dr. Bob. Now, today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Guys, do you ever feel like your brain is getting in its own way? Like you know what you should do, what's good for you, but you just can't seem to do it? Well, therapy is a way that you can be helped to figure out what's holding you back. So you can work for yourself instead of working against yourself. I personally am someone that has used therapy and has found that it helps me. So if hearing that I'm someone that's tried it allows other people to be confident and, say, maybe I want to give this a try. I've been stuck somewhere in my life and looking for some help. There's no better time to do that than now. Because if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. So it's nice and convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And you can do it in a place that you feel safe right in your own home. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. It's so important to find the right person for you. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNHL today to get $10 off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. Check it out today, guys. BetterHelp.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Farm to Fork, farmtoforkdelivery.ca. It's a premium meat and seafood company that serves Ottawa, all of Ontario, all of Quebec, and even our friends up in Nunavut. Now, what makes Farm to Fork so great? Well, first and foremost, it's how you people feel about it. How about their 5.0 average stars review on Google? They use all natural products, antibiotic and hormone free, that are ethically raised. So these meats are flash frozen after being hand cut at the butcher's table, which makes for much more freshness than at grocery stores. And you don't even want to know how long your meat's just been sitting there. Products are individually vacuum packed, so only take out what you need. It's free and convenient delivery, so you're saving money on gas and time. You even receive notifications on your phone right when it's nearing your home. They've got literally the best bundles. They stock the freezer up. Farm to Fork, the number 2, think Artem Zub, farmtoforkdelivery.ca. And when you go to shop, you can also click on all their specials. So right now, for example, how about the Healthy Pack Seafood Bundle? For $150, you can stock up the freezer full with 4 wild sockeye salmon portions, 6-ounce boneless, 2 pieces of albacore tuna, and Pacific cod. They've got all sorts of variety, and variety is the spice of life. So never go back to grocery store meats. And because you're a listener of Locked On Senators, you're entitled to a 10% discount. So use promo code LOSP10 for 10% off of your first order. Visit farmtoforkdelivery.ca. Taste the Farm to Fork difference. You will never go back to grocery store meats. All right, Pilsy, final segment here, Locked On Senators. Appreciate everybody for following along. I know it's a real stretch here without Senators hockey, but Pilsy, as I told you before the show, we've made it 310 days during the pandemic without Sens hockey. This is what we prepared for.
Yeah, no kidding. That definitely got us prepared for 5 days, 3 days, 4 days at a time. We can do this.
6 right now.
Yes, I mean 6 days. Yes, that's getting up there. That's close to the 300.
Well, we're almost 6 days away from now from what we believe is the return of Thomas Chabot. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 extra days. December 1st against the Columbus Blue Jackets is the day that's circled for Thomas Chabot to return to the Senators lineup. He's been out since that game in New York on Long Island. It's been 4 to 6 weeks right now, right? That's kind of the timeline for his broken hand. But when he comes back, knock on wood, because everyone else on the back end right now is healthy. What to you does an optimal defensive core look like?
All right. I did some cooking in the lab, Ross, trying to decide, okay, what works, what doesn't work, what makes sense. First off, even if Thomas Chabot is healthy and ready to go December 1st, I want to get him in the December 2nd because that's a back-to-back Columbus on the road December 1st. I don't want to take opponents lightly or anything like that, but I feel like the Senators, they should be able to take care of that without Thomas Chabot. And then for the game at home against the Seattle Kraken next day, get Chabot in the lineup, help out some of those tired legs up against a bit of a more difficult opponent at home. So that's kind of my plan here. Obviously, everything is health permitting. You got to get Thomas Chabot in. You got to wait and see when he's ready. So with the D pairs, when he does become healthy, Sanderson and Zub, you cannot split those two up. Under no circumstances can those two be split up right now. They've played over 100 minutes together. They have a 56.12 Corsi for percentage. That is your best D pair, period. Any rebuttal, Ross? Any comment, question, concern about that?
I think the other day I said that those two should be a pair for the next 7 years. So yeah, no rebuttal for me on that one. Your next pair.
All right, moving forward. Now, I mean, whether you want to call this the second pair or my next one the second pair doesn't really matter. Just top pair and then 2 more pairs. It's tiered like that in my mind. Thomas Chabot coming back. Look, I want to get him with JBD. JBD's been playing a much better game recently. He's shown some physicality with those 3 big hits over in Sweden. He's blocked the most shots by anyone on this team. He's laying down the body. Even in Bruce Garriock's article, he was saying that his mom wanted him to be a goalie, so he got used to blocking shots, but then he didn't go that route. So he's got it in him. A little bit of a tendy there. So I like the idea of him with Thomas Chabot because the one thing I don't want to see, Ross, is Thomas Chabot playing on the right side. I'm done with that. I don't want to see it. I want to see him on the left side. And then JBD, ever since he was drafted, at least I had this vision in my mind. This could be the perfect, simple defenseman to play with Thomas Chabot. But he hasn't elevated his game, JBD I'm talking about. He hasn't elevated his NHL game to a spot where we were really comfortable doing that for long periods of time. I know they've done it before, but I think with what we've seen from JBD this season, he could be ready for that type of role. So Thomas Chabot and JBD is my next pair.
Yeah, I don't hate that, but for me, that would be the third pair.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I mean. We can flip this around any way you want. I'm fine with classifying them as the third pair because, Ross, my other pair here is going to be Jakob Chychrun on the left side with Erik Brannstrom. Now, I know what people are thinking, but you want to get Chychrun up there. You want all the ice time like Sanderson, Chychrun, and Chabot. You want to give these guys ice time. They need to have ice time. But in a spot where DJ Smith, the kind of consensus is that the defensive structure has not been great here. Why not roll all 3 lines and have that left side stabilized by really good defensemen? And then that way you can focus on playing with pace like DJ Smith likes to have happen. And then hopefully you've got a good enough yin and yang that this works out. Now, Chychrun and Brannstrom this year, Ross, they've only played 11 minutes together, but the numbers are good, 58.82 Corsi for. And if you look at their Corsi for numbers from last season, it was among the best on the team. Again, short sample size. But I think that's the optimal way that you can set this Sens D pairings up because they're good enough now where you don't have to just rely on Chabot as a top guy playing 25 plus minutes. Now that Chabot's back, you don't have to rely on Sanderson playing those big minutes either. So I'd like to see this type of structure tried out at least, and then you can roll all three pairings.
Do you think DJ Smith has it in him to healthy scratch Travis Hamonic?
Travis Hamonic, in my opinion, needs to be looked at as a seventh defenseman. I think, even on that bottom pair, him and Branny haven't really been working that great, unfortunately. And then when he's had to play even higher, when Zub and Branny were out, it didn't work out. I think he's got to be a guy that you have to be comfortable having in the press box. And you just, honestly, Ross, I would just rotate Travis Hamonic in here and there just as a pair of fresh legs, because the Ottawa Senators schedule in December and March in particular, it might be good just to have a rotating guy, even if it's okay. One night, give Chychrun a break, throw Hammer in, give Branson a break, throw a Hammer in, Zub, anyone, give these guys a 1 day break and just have Hamonic play kind of spot starts here.
Not Zub. Zub's playing every game the rest of the year. And I won't.
But I just mean just to keep the legs fresh and just to kind of mitigate any injury concern. I don't want to use the term load management, Ross, but I think that's something that maybe this team could look at, because they're going to have a jam-packed schedule down the stretch, and hopefully, knock on wood, making a run past the regular season. You don't want guys injured and too many miles on those legs there.
It's a little difficult to look at the average ice time so far this season and get a sense of what it's going to be going forward based on the 3 injuries they had at one point this season. The Sens have already used 9 defensemen. If you're looking at it with Clevin and Matin Palo, the 2 that we haven't mentioned at all, Travis Hamonic needs to stop taking penalties for him to even get a sniff at being a top 6 guy at this stage. He's taken 10 minor penalties, Pilsy. That's like 2 off the league lead. And you don't want to be with Arbor Jacki in any statistical category right there side by side. And Hamonic has taken bad penalties, and multiple of them have led to immediate goals, like face-off win, D to D on net. It's in the back of the net. These are deflating goals that your depth defenseman cannot have. 15 games, 20 penalty minutes. Cannot happen. The next defenseman is Chychrun with 10. And also on Money Puck, I was looking at this, probably not the best stat either. This is a Chychrun stat, and I think it also kind of passes the eye test. Jakob Chychrun has 22 giveaways so far this season. And not only that, Pilsy, but of his 22 giveaways, 18 of them are in the defensive zone. How much of that do you think is him trying to do too much, and maybe having a guy like Brandstrom who can, carry the puck out and move pucks is going to help him? But how much do you think it is of him, like, maybe just trying to do too much himself?
I was hoping you would leave that for me to kind of enlighten you with, but you already caught my thought process there, Ross. I think
not just a hat rack, pal.
Yeah, exactly. I think when Chychrun and JBD were playing, like, Chychrun's going to be that guy that's going to be carrying the puck and starting the transition. So just through more opportunities, there is going to be more giveaways. Just statistically, it's going to happen. Whereas I think if you have the chance to have Chychrun and Branny as a pair, either one of those guys can move the puck up the ice. And sure, say what you want about Branny, like, Branny moves pucks, but doesn't necessarily get points, although he's got a clapper once in a while if you test him in Sweden. But he can exit the zone fairly well, and he does a good job of just bringing the puck up the ice and then just firing a wrister on net that usually gets covered for an ozone draw, which, sure, that's not converting a lot of chances, but at least it's moving the puck down the ice, and you got a chance for offensive possession with a face-off win right after. So I think a pair of Jakob Chychrun and Eric Brandstrom could work, and in small sample sizes, we have seen it does work.
Only John Carlson has more giveaways than Jakob Chychrun in the defensive zone with 22. But the difference is John Carlson has 12 takeaways, so he's getting the puck back a little bit more than Chychrun, who's down at 5. Now, Chychrun has been exceedingly exceptional offensively with 5 goals, 7 assists. Yep. He's tied with Jake Sanderson with 12 points this season. But they got him as a two-way, like, defensively responsible guy. It was kind of the calling card of what he could bring to help stabilize on the back end. So now that other players are getting healthy, you've already gotten the return of Brandstrom, and Zub's back. And that, obviously, Zub is just, like, by far the most stabilizing presence on the back end. But Jakob Chychrun, to me, in these next handful of games, I'm going to be looking at Chychrun to be a defensively responsible player. And even like his one-hand stick positioning, we lauded last year because he was breaking up plays so much. I want him to get back to that a little bit more and create havoc and create turnovers and get the puck up to the speedy forwards that he's getting to play with.
Yeah, I agree, Ross. I think now the D pairs that I want and the D pairs I think will happen are two different things. I think we'll probably see Chabot and Chychrun back together, but I'm hoping DJ Smith has the sense not to put Chabot back on that right side if they're going to do that. And then likely we're going to see a continuation of Eric Branstrom with Travis Hamonic, and JBD will be the odd man out.
Well, the Ottawa Senators will play the next hockey game after tonight because there's no games tomorrow due to American Thanksgiving. And I shouldn't say the next one because, wow, I'm only seeing this for the first time right now as well. Games on Friday start at 1 p.m. We've got Red Wings, Bruins at 1 p.m. We've got Rangers, Flyers at 1 p.m. We've got Maple Leafs, Blackhawks at 2 p.m. We've got Blue Jackets, Devils at 3. We've got Preds, Blues at 3. We got Oilers, Caps at 3. You get what I'm going with this one? We've got, and then Kings, Ducks, 3:30. Sharks, Canadiens at 3:30. My one day off this week's Friday. I am about to sit in front of the TV all afternoon. We're having ourselves a day. Of course, we'll have the postcast after the game. The Senators will be hosting the New York Islanders on Friday night. The New York Islanders, who just keep stealing points from the National Hockey League that they do not deserve to have. The New York Islanders have 6 wins. They better not have 7. 6 wins in 17 games and 5 loser points in this one as well. So I'm almost done with my loser point shenanigans, my soap opera that I'm putting on here with loser points. I just want a few ourselves, but I don't want to trade wins for them. I can already see people getting after me. Oh, I'll ask you this as a last question trivia.
Okay.
You think Daniel Alfredson's behind the bench on Friday?
No. I don't think so. I think they're going to want to try to have it as a Sweden thing, but I think that's going to be an ace up their sleeve if things go sideways.
So what? That's their desperation move is if Alfie goes back on the bench. I think he's got to stay there till they lose.
No, I'm with you. You asked what I think will happen. I think they'll take him off, and then if there's a skid or they need a boost, Alfie back on the bench.
Sprinkle a little Alfie dust over the bench.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, Pills, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me is let's get to Friday. I know we talked about it. It's not that long of a time, but
we got practice tomorrow, Pillsy.
Okay, give me practice lines. Get me back into game mode here. I am ready.
And we're ready for the postcast. It's been a while, but we will have the postcast on Friday night. The boys will be having a time. We either vent or vibe on the postcast. For today, though, we say goodbye. Have a great day. Thank you to Dr. Bob for joining us. Tomorrow, the leader of Shawarma Palace will join us as a Sens Central citizen. So stay tuned for that. Mad Sogard, just working out timing with him. We're going to have Mad Sogard on the show either late this week, early next week. Lots of great things happening. And in the meantime, follow us on Twitter at Sens Central, Instagram LockedOn.Senators. For Brandon Pillar, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.